Hi folks, we've got just a few days before a nice week-long break, and if you're looking for some good stories to read during that break, I've got a great group of new books for you. I have been waiting for weeks now for this one to become available to you all on Sora. So this is Marie Lu's latest story. She writes some of the best sci-fi and dystopian series out there, like the Legends series, like the Warcross duology, and this is another one that I know many of you are going to love. And then this one, we have Taran, who is our main character. She and her mother, when they were younger, had to flee from their own country and escape to a place called Mara. And this is the only nation left that has not been taken over by the dreaded Carenza Federation. And this federation conquers its enemies by turning them into ghosts, or these weird, creepy zombie monsters. They kind of remind me, for you Game of Thrones fans, of White Walkers. And so in order to remain hidden and unheard, the people remaining on Mara often have to even just sign to communicate with one another. And like many teenagers in this community, Taran has to become a striker, which is a member of the army that protects the country from these dreaded ghosts. But because she fled from another country, she's seen as weaker because her country didn't survive. So she's looked down upon by the other strikers. But they're so wrong, because she's pretty tough. Throughout this first installment of the series, though, it's really her friends and the fellow strikers that make the story great. They're an awesome, funny, sweet group where you learn to love a bunch of them. They're the kind you want to hang out with and the kind you'll want to follow throughout this new series. Here's the other one I've been waiting for. This is the second in the Contender series, and if you haven't read that one, now you're going to have two to add to your list. In the first one, Cade Carter is expelled from his school after he's convicted of a crime he didn't commit. And while he and another group of boys are being transported to the juvenile detention center, the plane suddenly starts to go down, and it actually travels through this other realm, and they find themselves hanging from a cliff and battling this crazy monster. It's pretty exciting. But in this new world, not only are there monsters, but there are just things full of the past, like the Ninth Legion of ancient Rome. It's like the scariest contenders of all times, which is kind of neat because you learn a little bit of history as well. And so Cade and his crew are always forced to think on their feet, and Cade learns he's pretty good at doing so, which is good because the rest of the boys soon find themselves as contenders in this series of games against all of those ancient warriors and creatures. In the first book, most of them, but not all of them, make it through, and the second one, the stakes are even higher. So this one is action, it's adventure, it's a little bit of history, and probably my favorite part is that Cade and his crew are just really cool examples of what someone can do when they're just up against the wall, how to think on their feet, and like a lot of us have learned this year, how to be creative and make the best of a whole different world. So this is the same author of the Summoner series, which if you haven't read that, now you've got a third one to add to your list. If you're a Keeper of the Lost Cities fan, this book number 8.5 in the series picks up at that cliffhanger that Legacy left us with. But this one alternates between Sophie and Keith's perspective, so you get a little bit more of the story. And even though it's a shorter edition, it has some really cool extras to fill the void while you wait for number 9, like some Keeper-themed recipes, this really cool map of the Lost Cities, and some really beautiful illustrations. If you need a comedy this week, this would be the one to check out. This is all about 16-year-old Rod, who is just living the life. He's the lead singer in a punk band, he's dating a beautiful girl, life is awesome. That is until his cousin Blake comes to stay with his family for a while. And Blake, he starts to suspect, is incredibly manipulative and for some reason is determined to turn his life upside down by spreading these small untruths about him. But it takes a while for him to catch on, and in fact he's not even really sure if he's just being paranoid or if his suspicions are correct. until finally he gets pushed over the edge and it's all out psychological warfare between the two. The dialogue is great. Rod breaks the fourth wall a lot by talking directly to the reader, so if you like that kind of Deadpool style storytelling, this is kind of like a Deadpool meets Step Brothers that you'll enjoy. Very light, super funny book. If you want to dig a little deeper this week, this story is as beautiful as the cover. It's a very powerful story of what it's like to try to go back to normal when normal no longer exists. And in this one, Evangeline, she loved her small town of Bayou in Louisiana. And the story starts with her enjoying the ability to go off on the water, enjoy the music, enjoy the awesome food. But when Hurricane Katrina hits, everything changes. And this story is about her family, her neighborhood, the whole community, just trying to rebuild their homes and their hearts after such a devastating event. We've all been through quite the crisis this year, and if you're looking for a teen to relate to, this would be one I highly recommend. It's the story of family and friendship, even a bit of romance, and finding your way through the aftermath of a tough time. There are some other really good fantasies being made available this week, like Egg and Spoon by Gregory and Maguire, whose name you might recognize as the author of Wicked. Yes, like the musical Wicked. And like the musical Wicked, this is another very fairy tale-like fantasy. And then there's also The Boy, the Wolf, and the Stars, in which a boy and his pet fox go on a quest to find the wolf that's been eating the stars before the Shadow Witch destroys all of the stars and removes good magic from the world forever. And then for the Percy Jackson fans, we've got Camp Half-Blood Confidential, which is a companion guide to the Trials of Apollo series.